and you start anytime you want to.
Sure, thank you. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
And if you're new to the show, let me explain. Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. And we broadcast from a radio station called CIVL across the Fraser Valley on 101.7 FM from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation. We also broadcast live to our Facebook group, which is the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group, and also my YouTube channel, which is just Dr. Leslie Phillips' YouTube channel. Now, Unlocking Your Truth, we've been going now for about 5 years. And every week we've done a different episode about metaphysics, spirituality, intuition, healing, psychic phenomena, you name it. And you can catch all of those hundreds of podcast episodes on my website, drlesliephillips.com.
Yes, lots of them.
Yeah, and we've covered so many things, and we've also done a lot of interviews. But this year on the show, we're having a special celebration, really, because I had a book come out this year, and the book is called Intuition and Chakras. And so on the show, every Tuesday now for the rest of the year, we're going to be talking about a different form of intuition and its relationship with the chakra system. Because, there's been a lot written about the chakras, and especially to do with healing. Everybody knows, well, my chakras need to be flowing, they need to be unblocked in order for me to be healthy. But not a lot has been written about how the chakra system relates to the psychic abilities. That's one of the reasons that I wrote my book, Intuition and Chakras. I wanted to have a book that was dedicated to intuition and the chakras, because I felt that that was something that wasn't really out there in much of a big way at all. And I think most people, when you talk to them about their psychic abilities, they might think about their third eye, their sixth chakra, and maybe they think about their crown chakra, but they wouldn't really think about the rest of the chakra system. But it's an integrated system where it's all involved, really. So today we're up to talking about the fourth chakra, or the heart chakra. So we've already covered the first chakra and the survival instinct, the second chakra and clairsentience, and the third chakra, energy distribution, outer body experience, and outer body memory. So now we're on to the heart chakra, or the fourth chakra. And this is the energy center that's located in the center of your chest, near where your heart is. And it relates to affinity and oneness. So we're going to do 2 shows on the heart center, and we'll focus one of them on affinity and the other one on oneness. So tonight's show is about affinity. So it might help us to define what is affinity. And I think that what I might do to do that is
I know.
just read out of the passage in my book that talks about it. And so that's what I'm going to do, I think.
Passionate feelings.
So, and affinity it's actually a natural force that kind of underpins all reality. So it's not just about human attraction, actually. So here's what I said in my book about it. In human relationships, affection, passion, and enthusiasm are expressions of affinity. Passionate feelings about a person or a project are your affinity, providing information on encounters that are a vibrational match for you. Affinity lets you experience your desire to connect with others, attracts you to certain people, and magnetizes life experiences that resonate with your energy. When you're in a state of attraction, you experience your affinity, whether you're enjoying socializing, engaging in a hobby, having a romantic date, communing with the divine, or just feeling like you want to buy a new car and you found a car that you've fallen in love with. Affinity works naturally if we allow it to flow. However, we can ignore it or block it. We can block our awareness of it with expectations, judgment, non-acceptance, or fear of receiving the loving gifts that the universe is offering. Affinity is a cohesive force in our universe. You learned about it in school in chemistry lessons when your chemistry teacher taught you about chemical reactions, how certain molecules are attracted to each other because of the negative and positive charges. You also learned about it in physics when your teacher taught you about electromagnetics. In astronomy, the planets are kept in position by forces of attraction or repulsion. Just as the universe has a natural order, there is a fit for you in the cosmic consciousness. So that's a little bit of a description of affinity and what is affinity. And let's talk a little bit about what happens when we're not in touch with our heart's affinity. And I think it's a really common thing. So let me share a little bit about what that might look like. And actually, when I was writing the book, in every chapter, I've shared a little bit of my own personal experience of the energy center and of that experience of that form of intuition. So maybe I'll just, again, read from the book my personal experience to give you an idea, my journey with respect to this. Okay. So affinity is a force of nature. And as a scientist, I learned about affinity when I learned about magnetic attraction and the formation and propagation of life. Learning about it as part of my human nature is something that developed over time, mainly because when I was younger, I was concerned with what others wanted of me, rather than what I desired for myself. There was a time in my life when I didn't know what I wanted, because I didn't even realize I had my own needs. I was a people pleaser, and my only function being to figure out what others wanted and not disappoint them. And I think that's a pretty common trait. I meet lots of people pleasers along the way, you know, where we're always putting other people first and trying to figure out what we need to do to make them happy. And we make our life choices based on that, rather than our own personal natural affinity within our heart. And, you know, you can be so out of balance on that when it comes to somebody saying to you, you know, do you realize that you've got needs that need to be fulfilled? You could even have trouble saying, I don't know what they are, for example. And I give you some very simple examples, again, in the book from my own life, because maybe that's helpful. But let's say when I was a kid at school, I loved art. I loved to draw and I loved to paint. In England, you have to choose 8 to 10 subjects when you're about 12, 13 years old. And art was in the same time slot as history. So I chose history instead of art because I thought I had to choose things that were more intellectual. And I hated the history. It was really, I love history, but this particular teacher and this particular aspect of history, I think it was social history. You know, I chose something that I thought I ought to rather than what I loved. And I'm sure you've all got examples in your life when you've chosen something that you thought you ought to, or that might make somebody else happy, that really wasn't what you naturally were drawn to. And so then I went through this process of really coming to understand myself better and learning what it was that I wanted and what I had a natural affinity for, and allowing myself to choose those things. So, you know, and you probably know, if you follow me, I used to be a scientist, and I used to be a business development director in the pharmaceutical industry. And yeah, a lot of that was the Billy Elliot syndrome. I don't know if you've seen the film Billy Elliot, but it's a story about a boy who grows up in a mining town, and he wants to be a ballet dancer, and all the men are really macho. His father's really macho. You know, everyone is, and they think it's just absolute nonsense for a boy to do ballet dancing. And so the film is all about his struggle to fulfill his own needs and his own heart's desire against this powerful backdrop of expectations of him being different than that. So let's talk about you and your affinity. Let's give some examples of somebody who maybe is following their heart's affinity and somebody who isn't. So again, I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit from what's in the book here. So someone who's experiencing their affinity will be guided by their heart in their relationships with friends and romantic partners. They will love spending time alone and with others and be able to feel happy either way. When you follow your affinity, you might be strongly drawn to plants, animals, the environment. You might naturally gravitate towards situations that are beneficial and supportive of you, be drawn to people and situations that can help you. And the universe seems to highlight things and events that are really great for you. And people who are not a match fall out of your sphere of experience because you are holding that vibration of being open-heartedly loving why you're here and choosing yourself. And if you can feel the divine presence of love vibrating within you and can sense the beauty of all things, including yourself, your life, your body, if you are a passionate person who listens to your heart to make decisions and who knows whatever you want can be magnetized through your open, loving heart, then, you know, you're in touch with your affinity. You might not call it that, but you're in touch with your affinity. But if you don't accept and appreciate yourself exactly as you are, you're not in touch with your self-affinity. And if you fear others, if you judge others, or do things to keep the peace or fit in, or don't know yourself very well, don't know your needs, and have no idea what you like, then there's work to be done in clearing your heart center so you can be in touch with your affinity. So I can see that somebody must be asking questions because Corey's got his hands raised.
Everybody doesn't need to know that, Dr. Leslie.
Well,
Anyway, we have a question from Amina in Luxembourg, and she says, I'm being called in this life to love myself because due to traumatic childhood experiences in this life and past lives, I chose fear and closed my heart. How do you work on opening the heart portal?
how do you work on opening the heart? Well,
And
thank you.
Kylie Lynn also says, how would someone clear their heart?
That's they're both really great questions. And I think what I might do in the second part is do a couple of exercises or a meditation just to show you that rather than talk about it. So let me check in with Corey. How long before we go to the break?
Right now, you've got about 4 minutes.
Okay. So one question was how to open the heart center, and the other question was how do you know if you've got a blocked heart center? Was that right?
Someone to clear their heart center. And let me read you Amina's again, both of them again. I'm being called in this life to love myself because due to traumatic childhood experiences in this life and past lives, I chose fear and closed my heart. How do you work on opening the heart portal? And then Kylie Lynn says, how would someone clear their heart?
Okay. So let's do I don't know whether to do a quick meditation now or after the break.
Why don't we do it after the break?
Yeah, we'll just talk about it a little bit.
Well, if you want to do that work after the break, maybe you have a quick question here from Julie. Julie says, how can you help someone else with a closed heart against herself?
That's also a really good question. And
they're all good questions.
You know, I think the best way is by demonstrating being a loving being yourself and demonstrating what it is to be someone who is open-hearted and loving and in touch with affinity, in touch with their self-affinity and affinity for others. So by loving yourself and demonstrating how it is to be someone who loves themselves is a really great way to exemplify that. And that old saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Somebody has to be ready to make a shift in order for the shift to be made. So sometimes we can try talking to people and make suggestions to them, and it doesn't help because they're not at that point where they're ready to make that change. So we can never do it for another person. All we can do is be the embodiment of somebody who is a loving being. And to the degree that feels something like the other person might accept, if you're a really good friend, then you can make suggestions to them of, well, I felt that way and this is what helped me, kind of thing. I thought you were going to say something, Corey.
Yeah, I heard something today. Somebody says, how do you help somebody in grief? And this woman who was a death doula said, well, what do you say to somebody in grief? So first of all, you don't say anything to somebody in grief. You show them, you go over, you help them with their kids, you feed them, you do things to show them that you care. And that's probably one of the best ways.
Show them what it is to be a loving being. Because as, for example, Amina's question was, that I had she said she had a traumatic childhood. So maybe she didn't experience that love as a child and needs to have that demonstrated, somebody in that situation. Anyway, I'm going to wrap that up because it's time now for us to go to the break. This is Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
Yes.
Tonight's show is on our theme of intuition and chakras, and we'll be back after these messages.
Go ahead, Dr. Leslie.
Welcome back, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey. And we are doing a series on the radio show and podcast about intuition and chakras, because I'm celebrating the launch of my book, which is called Intuition and Chakra. So every week on the show, we've been talking about a different chakra and different aspects of intuition that are channeled through that chakra. So today we're talking about the heart chakra, and we're talking about affinity. Affinity, which is, your heart's affinity. It's related to love and passion, and it's that feeling that draws you to what you love, what you want. And so we've been talking about that, and then we had a couple of questions before the break about how to clear the heart chakra and how to open the heart chakra. And I suggested it just might be an idea for us to do a meditation and experience this as opposed to talking about it. So the first thing that we're going to do is everybody, if you're listening on the radio and you're driving, I think that you have to wait till you get home. But if you're comfortably sitting at home, then you can join in this meditation. And so what I invite you to do is sit with your feet flat on the floor, your hands resting in your lap, and a straight back. And then let's just take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And another deep breath in. And out. And you want to be breathing deeply, and you want to be filling your lungs to capacity and then emptying them as well. So long, slow, gentle, deep breaths in. And out. And in. And out. And as you follow that long, slow rhythm of deep breathing, allow that to start to bring you into focus, connect you with your body, bring you into the present moment. And before we get to the heart chakra, we're actually going to start at the first chakra, which is the energy center that exists near the base of your spine. And we're going to create a flow of energy that goes from that first chakra all the way to the center of the earth. So you just send that with your intentions from the first chakra to flow effortlessly through the chair you are sitting in, through the floor of the room, through the foundations of the building, through all the levels and layers of the planet, until it reaches the center of the earth. And take a moment as you're breathing deeply and being in this grounded state to just notice what that feels like for you. You can even come up with a word or a phrase that describes how you feel right now. The grounding will help you to be present right here, right now, and starts to put you more in charge of your energy. One of the questions was, how do I clear my heart chakra? Here is an answer of how you can clear anything. Is you use this grounding cord to release energy. So right now, first of all, let's just scan the whole system. You've been breathing deeply, you've been tuning into your body. Notice where there may be any disturbances in your system. Right now, it doesn't matter where they are, just whatever you notice. Whether you're noticing some physical disturbance, emotional or mental disturbance, be aware of and then choose something that you would like to release. And what you're going to do is you're going to send that disturbance down this grounding cord, releasing the disturbance down the grounding cord, sending it to the center of the earth, where that energy is just going to be repurposed. I want to give you all a moment to experience this. And relax as you're doing this. The body can relax because the one who is doing this is you, the spiritual consciousness. And hopefully you are noticing a release happening. Now, we can just as easily decide to work on one of our chakras. And because the theme this evening is the heart chakra, be aware of your heart chakra. And if you sense or feel that there is a block of any kind in your heart chakra, what I want you to do is just simply send that down the grounding cord. So allowing the energy to just naturally drop away and flow down that grounding cord to the center of the earth. So this is a very simple way that you can heal your heart center. Or any other chakra for that matter. So spend a moment just releasing from the heart center. Any energy blocks, any disturbances, any resistances, any imbalances. It's quite common for people to have a shield over their heart chakra to protect themselves, to be in resistance or judgment, or have their giving and receiving out of balance. So whether it's one of those things or all of those things for you, send them down the grounding. And once you know how to do this, you can do this at leisure in your own meditations. We're going to answer the other question, which is, how do I open my heart chakra? So I want to invite you right now to be aware of your heart center, and it's located in the center of your chest. And I want to invite you to see if you can find love. It might be a little spark of love. It might be a little spark of light. No matter how tiny it is, look for that flickering within the heart. Now, if you find that difficult, think of something that you love. Maybe you love a puppy. Maybe you love puppies. Maybe you have a pet that you love. Maybe you have a baby that you love. Think of something that you love to help you tune into that vibration. And then when you have that spark of light, that feeling of love, what I want to invite you to do is expand it. So grow it. So you're opening your heart as you grow this light, this vibration of love. So I'm focusing on that heart center and allowing that little pinprick of light to expand to be like a marble of light, and then to the size of a tennis ball, and then allowing it to expand in your chest as big as, you know, a football. and then just inviting it to grow bigger and bigger and bigger until it has expanded to fill your entire chest. And then as you will even go beyond that. So now inviting you to open that so wide that You are sitting in a sphere of bright light that is the emanation of love from your heart center. And then I just invite you to sit within that vibration. And remaining grounded, because this vibration is a very high vibration. It will dissolve the blocks. It will dissolve what is not a vibrational match for that. So you can use this very simple meditation to clear your heart chakra, to expand and open your heart chakra. You can do this meditation every day, practicing what does it feel to have my heart open, and sending what comes up in your reality that is not a vibrational match. So I will just invite you to relax, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And as you're breathing, you can just invite your energy system to reset itself to be something that feels comfortable for you. You can remain in a state of bliss if you wish, or you can just allow things to adjust themselves. And then I invite you to open your eyes and come back into the room.
That was wonderful.
Yes. And I would say, in my Unlock Your Intuition course, there is a whole module spent on the heart chakra. And we learn a whole bunch of additional techniques for balancing the energy of that chakra and other energy centers. But
also for this, people can go on to the website and they could be able to play the podcast as well and revisit this, as well as on YouTube will be there as well, so they can replay this as well a little bit.
Totally. Absolutely.
LP in India says that was a beautiful meditation.
I'm very glad you enjoyed it. Very glad indeed. We don't very often do meditations on this show. I think maybe we should do some more. Oh, well, listeners, we're talking about intuition and chakras. Tonight, we're talking about the heart chakra. In particular, we've been talking about the heart's affinity. Next week, we're going to talk about oneness, which is another aspect of the heart chakra.
Don't leave us yet. Amina says that was extremely helpful. I enjoyed it. My tears flowed as I listened with joy and visualized the heart expanding.
Wonderful. And thank you for your question, Amina, because that was what sparked that meditation.
Yeah.
So
there's lots of help from our listeners when it comes to content like that.
yeah, that's great. And again, I'm wondering if it's time for a break. No? Okay. So
Still got a couple of minutes left.
Talk a bit more about the heart chakra then, and let's see what I didn't say yet about it. Some people might think of the heart chakra kind of as a bridge. When you think about there are 7 chakras, and the heart chakra is in the center, it's almost like a bridge between heaven and earth, between the lower chakras, which are much more focused on physical reality, and the upper chakras, which in a way are more focused on a spiritual, non-physical reality to some degree. And the lower chakras being denser, lower vibrations, and the upper chakra being incrementally higher vibrations. So the heart chakra is in the center of all of that. And so it sort of bridges and balances between those, and also is a balancing point for other dichotomies, such as giving and receiving. And I think I mentioned that. And I find especially people who are in the spiritual realm actually quite often have an unbalanced heart chakra. And it tends to be that their giving, it exceeds their receiving. So they give and they give and they give of themselves, and they want to help people and they want to be of service, and they deplete themselves because their giving and receiving is not in balance. They're not receiving what they need to receive to fill themselves up. So it's that thing about fill yourself up first, and then when you're overflowing, you can assist others. So all of you that are listening to the show, take a moment and think about your giving and receiving, and is it in balance? And think about that while we go on a break, and then we'll come back after these messages and we can talk about that some more. Welcome back, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. Tonight's show is about the heart chakra. We're talking about affinity. And we had some questions about what can be a block in the heart chakra and how to clear it. It looks like we've got some more questions.
Yes, I think we do. And this is a question from LP, again in India. She says, I have an exam coming up in 10 days, and I'm trying my best to maximize my score by using my intuition to study. What is the most useful, to study what is the most useful in the next couple of days? Do you have any advice, please?
Well, I'd be curious what it is that you are studying. So if you can pop that into the chat, let me know, and I will just talk a little bit based on the information that you've given. The intuition, when we say studying, we're typically thinking about collecting facts and remembering information, and we're doing it through our brain and through our intellect. So the intellect.
Dr. Leslie,
yeah.
So, LP says it's a GMAT exam, entrance exam for business schools.
Okay. So here's the thing. The intuition, the intellect is the highest vibration of the human body. And it is a tool that serves you well when you have to, navigate through physical reality. So a lot of the questions in the GMAT are linear. They're kind of this world. they're linear, and they involve linear thinking, or they involve mathematics and things that the intellect and the brain is really, really good at. So we want to be able to use the tool when it's appropriate to use the tool, when what we're doing is something that tool was built for. And just give me a moment. Because your intuition is a higher vibration than the intellect. And it enables you to access multidimensional information rather than linear information. It allows you to access that multidimensional information instantly rather than through time and space, because the intellect is of the body and it's the tool that helps you navigate through time and space. And the intuition helps you in the reality that's outside of time and space. Now, we all want to use our intuition to help us with our lives that we're living, which are in the physical world. So I think what I'm saying is, we don't want to force the intuition to do the job of the intellect, and we don't want to force the intellect to do the job of intuition. And I see so often in my students that those things get muddled up. So people approach their intuition through their intellect, and so it's really important to be able to distinguish between those two things. Now, could you use your intuition to pass an exam? Yes, and in fact there are, let's think about this. There's a form of intuition called abstract intuition, and we will be doing a show on that, which really is, you know, in the realm of like a gifted child who can solve a mathematical equation instantaneously without having to figure it out. And those are the kids that get told that people believe that they're cheating, maybe, when they're in conventional schooling, because it's hard for the teachers to understand how do they know the answer. So I know I'm kind of giving you a long roundabout answer here, but I don't really know a tip that I could give you to use your intuition to pass your GMAT exam. I think what I would say is use your intellect for what it's built for. And, you know, and then maybe if there are questions that you feel you don't have a clue for, you might use your intuition. I don't know whether they've got multiple choice questions or what it is. So know what the intellect is for and know what the intuition is for. Maybe that would be my answer. I hope it was at least a little bit helpful. Yeah.
We have another question for you. And this one is from Brian. And Brian says, Dr. Leslie, could you take a look at my heart chakra and let me know what may be going on there? I've done some work there, but there may be more going on.
Sure. Happy to do that for you, Brian. And thank you for listening to the show. Actually, one thing that I see, and what we might call it, is a kind of an expectation of how you should be and how you should feel. Expectation, almost like to be a spiritual person, I should be walking around with this vibration of love. And I'm seeing that there's a desire to embody love and to be a loving person. And there's an expectation that that is what a spiritual person should do. And then there's almost a denial then of some other things that are there. So I'm seeing that there's behind that maybe some anger and judgment that you haven't yet resolved. And so let's see. So, I mean, what I would say is let go of perfect expectations of how you're supposed to be, because when we have a perfect expectation of how we're supposed to be, it stops us accepting who we are and how we are, and it gets in the way of our self-affinity and our self-love. So it's more like cultivate a love for yourself, for everything about you. And let's see what else comes up. I'm just going to move some energy through your heart center, actually. There's also, let's see, how do we say this? I guess it's sort of like something to do with caring how you're perceived by others, or caring how others are. And in saying that, I don't mean that we shouldn't care about others, but let's say somebody else is being mean to us or judging us, then it's like how to remain neutral and loving, even when that's happening, and if we don't, to still love ourselves anyway. So there's something coming up to do with interacting with other people, and that came up when I started moving some energy through the heart center, because it's almost like a rejection of certain things. Like I only want to process this. I don't want to process that. I only want to experience this. I don't want to experience that. So there's some limits that you're putting to the full experience of your heart center and of everything that you're going through in your life, because you're saying it should be this instead of just letting it be what it is. Hope that helps. So I can't hear Corey, but I can see that he's talking.
Yes, I thought I clicked. So LP says, thank you. I've said, first of all, I said, I'm sure it will help. LP says, thank you for the answer. It was definitely helpful. I want to try to use my intellect to the best of my abilities. And Danielle says, hi, Leslie. I've been following your 3-part courses about intuition on Vimeo. Thanks. It was very informative. And she got a whole bunch of lovely little hearts and roses behind it. And
can I just comment on that? Danielle, wonderful. And I think that the videos that you're watching are part of my Awaken Your Intuition webinar series. And I want to mention that to all the listeners, that if you go onto my website, you can sign up for this free webinar series called Awaken Your Intuition. And there's basically three webinars. The first one, we talk about blocks to intuition. The second one, we talk about different forms of intuition. And then the final one's a live Q&A with me. And so I want to encourage you all to join that. They're really great. And thank you, Danielle, for the validation and the testimonial on them.
By the way, Brian says thank you. It really helped.
You're welcome.
And I have one over here. SG says, I'm having a very hard time using my intuition, especially when making important decisions, seeing what feels best for me. I'm torn between 2 decisions right now, or not making a move at all. Can you see what's going on with my heart too?
Yeah, but my first instinct is to say, one of the things I really encourage people to do is to cultivate their clairvoyance. You know, we have to go through all of these things one by one and compartmentalize them just in order to talk about them. But really, they're not in silos. So your clairvoyance can give you neutrality. If we just solely focus on our heart, then we don't necessarily have the neutrality. And especially if other people are involved and other people's energy is in there, then it can make making decisions very, very difficult. If you can have both the perspective of your heart and the perspective of your clairvoyance in your third eye, it helps you to be neutral and see what's really going on. So what I feel is that you are in this decision, you're dealing not only with your own energy, but you're dealing with some other people and what they might want or think or believe. And I'm seeing that is, to me, that's what's confusing you. Is it's like, if it was just you and just your energy, it looks like it would be an easier thing. But let's see. So use the grounding that we did earlier to release foreign energy and even to release indecision. And then see if that helps you to get a bit clearer. Do we have any other questions from the listeners?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Danielle says, yes, right on. I took so many notes. I loved your teachings. And so Amina says, she's got another question. She says, if Dr. Leslie has time, I would love a reading or guidance or on what I can focus on today that will heal my heart. I'm also working on loving myself first so as to be able to attract my romantic partner. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's see. Well, Amina, it looks like you're carrying some hurt. It looks like, and we all go through this, don't we, in romantic relationships that end. You know, people do things and people say things, and we get hurt by it. So it looks like you are carrying around some hurt. And interestingly enough, I see a lot of it being around the heart chakra, more in the chest, in the sort of lung kind of area, or the upper chest kind of area. And it feels like, again, like an energy, experience, or situation that felt it was imposed upon you or encroached upon you, and prevented you from having a venue for expressing your love. And I know you said also that you had some stuff in your childhood, and it feels to me like there's also some stuff from later on as well. And I'm losing track of the question. I think the question was, what can I say to help you to clear it, rather than just telling you what I'm seeing there. And I think if that was the question, then the exercise that we did earlier in the show, working on expanding the heart energy, and it looks like for some reason you felt like you have to, it's almost like be the punching bag for other people's negative energy, that you have to allow it to happen and absorb it into your system. And it just looks like that's what you've done, but it isn't true that you have to do that to suck it up when other people are mean. And it certainly isn't true that you need to carry it around with you as baggage for the rest of your life. So, you know, focusing on being in the present moment, because none of that stuff is happening in the present moment, and using the grounding technique to be releasing everything that belongs to the past, so that you are cultivating an energy in the present moment that is beautiful and loving and is not of those vibrations. I hope that helps you.
Well, Dr. Leslie, that time has come again.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank all the listeners today for tuning into the show. So glad that we, for the Facebook viewers, weren't sideways this week like we were last week. And we're going to continue on this series. So next week, we're still going to talk about the heart chakra. So if you had questions about your heart chakra, didn't get answered today, then show up next week, because we're going to keep talking about it. And we're going to talk about the aspect of oneness, the interconnectedness of all things next week on the show.
Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye.